What is up, everybody? I am here with my man, Michael Fisher from Codify. We were going to discuss our top 10 pitchers for the 2023 season, top 10 starting pitchers for the 2023 season. I just got done doing it for MLB Network. I was the guest star, and it's tough. Like, I was not comfortable with my list, and I feel like the guys I left off could arguably beat the guys I put on there. But I'll go over mine, and then we'll get some feedback from Mike over there, and let you guys go on your way. And feel free to leave your favorite top 10 pitchers in the comments, and also subscribe. Hit subscribe because we have a lot of great content for you all year. So anyway, without further ado, here are my top 10 starting pitchers. And one qualification is I tied one hand behind my back because I also did not want to pick two pitchers from any one team. I wanted to spread the love. So you may say, why didn't I include this guy? Well, it's probably because I wanted to include another guy from that rotation. I'm going to start with number 10. I have Spencer Strider, Quadzilla. Number 9, Zach Wheeler. Number 8, Carlos Rodon. Number 7, Shane McClanahan. Number 6, Justin Verlander, defending Cy Young Award winner. Number 5, Dylan Cease. Number 4, Corbin Burnes. And number 3, Shohei Ohtani. Number 2, Jacob deGrom. And number 1, Sandy Alcantara. And I will tell you, and number 1, I had Sandy Alcantara as my best pitcher last year. I'm standing by it. I think he just workload wise, as well as stuff, I'm giving him the nod. And I'm going to touch on all my guys, why I picked them, and some of the guys I left off. But we'll have a discussion about them. The guys I left off, and this was tough. I left off Alek Manoah, who's my dude. That was really tough. Garrett Cole, Max Scherzer, Aaron Nola because of my Wheeler-Nola thing, Scherzer because of the Verlander Scherzer thing, guys on the same staff. Brandon Woodruff, Framber Valdez, along with Christian Javier. I mean, either one of those guys could easily make it. I mean, the Astros are going to be good again. Zach Gallen, Max Fried, Kevin Gausman, Shane Bieber, and Yu Darvish. All those guys. And I probably missed some other guys that I'm thinking of, but it is really tough distilling that down to 10. But again, those were my top 10. Fisher, do you have any comments about them? Or
It said this is such a tough task. To even try to start off, we try to define, are we talking about the most valuable pitchers? Are we talking about the sexiest ones? I know when we talked about it and you had guys you were talking about, we threw did I hear Max Fried in your left off list?
Max Fried is in my left off. I have him on my list here. I did not mention him, I believe. And right. Yeah, but that was the Spencer Strider and Max Fried issue, two guys on the same staff. And I happen to like Strider's stuff a little more than Fried. I mean, I'm a Max Fried fan, but Strider is a force of nature, and I wasn't not going to include him.
Right. The 11 to 30, whoever that ends up being when the dust settles, is just so talented. And it's just like you look at like a Yu Darvish, and you're like, I don't know who I'd bump, but he's so talented. I feel like he's around the 10th spot. But then when you go through it and write names down, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, like if you told me, Alek Manoah is in your top 10, I would definitely not argue with you. Garrett Cole, I don't know how I leave him off because he's, a strikeout leader, hard contact. I mean, obviously ERA of 3.5, that leaves a mark, but does he still have good stuff? Yeah, he still has good stuff. And would it surprise me to see him win a Cy Young next year? No. So, I mean, I don't know. That's
right. I think when we're playing musical chairs, I think I leave him off when I look back to, without any allegations or whatever. But when you look to when the Sticky Stuff Police came out and things changed and his RPMs dropped, maybe because he overcorrected and was afraid to use anything or whatever. But his numbers still haven't bounced back. He can still strike guys out, but a lot of long balls. And when you think about top 10, I mean, the bar is really high here. And to your point, when's a Cy Young next year? And no one's going to be like shocked that he did it. But who do you bump? If he takes a seat, who's not making it? So when we went through it, I know, and we're like, well, deGrom has to have a seat, Burnes has to have a seat, Carlos Rodon has to have a seat, Shohei and Scherzer, and you're running out of chairs.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no, I agree. A little reasoning on mine. I mean, I think Strider is the most electric pitcher in the game. I think, period, he's the most electric pitcher in the game. His strikeouts per nine tell you that. A crazy
right,
FIP last year was like 1.8 something. Is that right?
183. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's nuts. And can he get better? You know, I can see him regress. Obviously, the league sees him more, but I can also see him improve because I know for a fact his changeup is very good. He just didn't throw it that much because why? Like he was
Right.
dominant. There was no real reason to throw it. Um, Zach Wheeler's been great the last 2 years. He looked great in the postseason. He's like baby deGrom. I mean, I think he's a consistent workhorse. Love his stuff, and I'm a big fan. Rodon, to me, in New York, I think he's a bully. He thrives off emotion. He has great stuff. He will shove the ball down people's throats, a lot like Cole, I mean, attitude wise, but he's
Right.
even more so. He's more demonstrative and stuff. And I see him feeding off the New York crowd and doing even better, which is hard to believe because he's so good. Shane McClanahan has what, 3 top pitches, and his
Right.
changeup is maybe his best pitch, which he told me is his favorite pitch to throw now, and rightly so. Like it's a great pitch and an elite changeup. He can get better too, young dude. Can Verlander get better? I don't think so off last year, but can he stay somewhere in that neighborhood? Yeah, I mean, he's still throwing upper 90s, and he's smart. And again, it wouldn't surprise me to see Scherzer in that spot. Dylan Cease, command's going to be the gating thing. If he improves his command, as a lot of guys do, I can see him, maintaining that spot or even jumping. He could win a Cy Young award. And, with age sometimes comes command, especially when your stuff's nasty. I can see his knuckle curve maybe didn't perform as well as it could have last year. I think it's a great pitch. Slider, obviously the number 1 rated slider in terms of run value in baseball. Love him. Corbin Burnes, what is he like? You're talking about 3 different pitches with over 45% whiff rate. We all talk about his cutter, but his changeup, curve, and slider are just disgusting. And elite command, great pitcher. He doesn't even need to improve to win a Cy Young. He just can do it. Shohei, the filthiest pitcher in baseball in my mind. Love his stuff. He can get better too. I think, a year using that sinker. He introduced it famously towards the end of last year. Can he get better? Yes, I think he can. Slider, arguably, I mean, he and Cease, I think you can argue Shohei's slider is at least top 2, if not top 1 in the game. And that's not even counting his splitter, which gets incredible whiffs. DeGoat, Jacob deGrom, innings are my issue. Like, if he pitches any semblance of a normal workload, he's the best pitcher in baseball. He doesn't lose it because he didn't pitch that much, but that's the open question. Is he going to be healthy? Strikeouts and command. Oh my God. His command is, I don't think people focus on that enough. He has Maddox level command, throwing 101, 102 miles an hour, doing 2 different things, all glove side crap. And he is unhittable. And number 1, I love Sandy Alcantara. I think he's the most liked pitcher in baseball. Everybody loves him because he's a combination of old school and new school, eats up innings, great stuff, throws hard, awesome changeup. And, I don't think he has to get better. I think he just has to stay consistent where he is. He's a workhorse, and I love his stuff.
Yeah, still young. And I mean, plenty of guys have peaked later than 27. So
yeah,
who knows what can happen there. deGrom, absolutely. I know we've talked about it before of like, should he not go 80% of the time to that side of the plate? Well, I mean, how much does it help his command that he's not trying to do anything else, muscle memory and not moving around? We saw him move around a little bit toward the end, but I don't know how much of that was just being hurt versus, playing around.
Yeah, my instincts were he was struggling a little bit with injury. I try not, like, I know everybody overreact. Oh, he's made of glass, blah, blah, blah. I mean, before the last couple of years, he actually pitched a bunch of,
Right.
he made his starts. Is that going to be a trend for this year or not? I'm hesitant. Obviously you should be, but can you take away his crown? He's certainly the best pitcher pitch for pitch in baseball. The question is how many of those pitches he's going to have.
Right. Right.
Who have I left off that you would jump, or if you want to sketch out a top 10 or move some of my guys around, I'm more than happy to listen.
Yeah, every time I make this list, I feel biased when I think about Kevin Gausman. He led the American League and he led the American League in FIP last year. He gave up a lot of hits, and people are like, oh, I'm pretty big on him, and he's going to settle into a second year there. It was a big deal. It's not a minor thing moving to Canada, and I won't go through all of it, but it was a lot, moving your family, getting all set up, and new stadium, new batters, new everything. I'm big on him, and he's got more there. He's edging into that top 10. If he's not right there, he's right next to it. The other guy that we kind of brush over because I think we set the bar higher for him is Shane Bieber.
Yeah,
just because he's so good, and you just have this like, well, he's going to be this good, and when he's like a hair lash below, you're like, well, okay, so he's the 15th best pitcher. Like, I don't know, he might be in my top 10. It's just that I can make 10 arguments for different guys for the 10 spot. It's really tough.
I love Shane Bieber.
Right.
I love his stuff. The only thing that, and again, it's my bias towards velocity. All my guys, Verlander, I think is the slowest thrower on my list. And he hit 99 last year.
Right.
Bieber, obviously his velo dropped, but his effectiveness didn't drop. So it's my bias. I mean, Shane is fantastic. I know he's one of your guys too, which must be a lot of fun to do heat maps for. But I mean, he's always there. Like, dude is a stud. Always there. Yeah.
Right. Castillo, new surroundings. I mean, boy, you've seen when he's on, you're like, these are guys when you watch them and you're like, yeah, that's a top 10 guy.
And I agree. If you said it, I would sit there and go, yeah. If you say the name or Julio Urias, is he like, I mean, if you argued he was a Cy Young Award winner last year, I would disagree with you, but I wouldn't think you were playing nuts. I mean,
right. If I told you he was my 10th guy in the top 10, you're like, okay, I could see that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right. Yeah. And then, we talked about Max Fried already, but when you just look at the numbers, again,
my bias on him is strikeouts. And I see too many times, pitching to contact, or maybe just not striking folks out. It ends up biting you. And it did a couple of times last year. And that is the only reason why I would give Strider, who is a strikeout machine, the nod over him and my two pitcher on the same staff list. But this two pitcher thing really does, it opens it up, because you can definitely argue Scherzer should be on the list. Brendan Woodruff, we haven't talked about, who he was great towards the end of the year last year.
He's sitting right there. Yep.
Yeah. Like, does he deserve to be on the list? Maybe. And no Astros on the list. Like, what the heck?
I know. Javier, I mean, that run he had with the keeping the hits down to a ridiculous minimum is like, well, those consistently when any lists go out and he's not on there, or Julio for the Dodgers or whatever, the people get outraged. I mean, they put the numbers up
though. Like, they're right.
I know.
Like, and should Fromber be on there? I mean, he had that crazy run, and again, you tell me he's a top 10 pitcher. Sure. Like, I'd nod my head, go, yeah, he's one of my favorite dudes. Zach Gallen, where do you find room for him on this list? He's clearly, if he was in a major market, like, could you imagine the stuff he'd be getting? So yeah, this is really tough. And I don't want to, act like anybody, my list certainly isn't sacrosanct, because I had a hard time with this. This was one of the harder things that I've had to work through. And I feel Manoah was the hardest, because I love the dude. I love how hard he competes. The issue with him again was K's, and I thought there was some luck in his ERA last year, but he also is always working, is a competitor, will throw the innings, wants to throw more innings. He's a workhorse in making. And again, I feel bad. Like, he should be on the list probably, but I just didn't do it. And it was solely a strikeout bias on my list.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a guy that could pop up there, and again, maybe doesn't strike out enough to make your list, but a guy who, if the year ends next year and he's in your top 10, you wouldn't be surprised, is Logan Webb.
Yeah.
There's just another guy. There's a stable of like 30 to 35 pitchers are just like so talented, and a lot of them are young. I mean, Logan Webb isn't that old, and some of these guys are still growing. Who
Yeah,
knows how good McClanahan could be?
right. Well, and he had
I
those
mean,
injuries at the end of the year, or
what,
that little bit injury bug at the end of the year.
Bro, what about Glasnow? We haven't even talked about
He
him.
should have been on, like, again, I was thinking about putting him on the list. I didn't have the track record from last year
Right.
to justify it. But if you told me Glasnow was going to be the top pitcher in the major leagues last year and strike out 13 hitters per 9 innings, I would say that's not far-fetched at all. And a matter of fact,
No.
I don't miss anything he ever throws. He's fantastic.
Right.
What would your list look like? Do you have any, or you want to sketch it out? I'm going to put you on the spot.
We could. I tried to do it when we talked about it too. I mean, you got to, if you're going to accept deGrom as being healthy enough, he's got to be on there somewhere.
You can leave him off if you want. I mean, if you
no,
want.
but I mean, it's hard, I mean, even if he made 20 starts, he'd probably crack the top 10.
Yeah.
I mean, Rodon for sure is in my top 10. Shohei definitely in my top 10. Those last 19 starts was a 1-7 or something like that. I mean,
could you argue that he's number one too? Like, yes. I mean, yeah, I can have a strong argument that Shohei is the best pitcher in baseball game per game. Like, his value drops only because of the start amounts.
Right.
But could he be better than he was last year?
Yes.
Yeah, he definitely could.
Yes. Yeah. And he just showing the ability to see a gap in your game and go, oh, I think I'll just start throwing 99-mile-an-hour sinkers and fill that hole and become that much better. I mean, that was no fluke,
The other thing is the thing that people don't pick up on as much, that watching him day in and day out, I pick up on, is his competitiveness with runners on base. You can see it in the stats, but you can see it on his face. Like, right. I see him bear down, and it's like, I'm the best athlete on the field in his head. Like, he's not a cocky guy, but he's a confident guy. And he just takes it to another level with runners on base. And it's so much fun to watch an elite athlete have that other gear that he doesn't use all the time.
Yeah. And that's a great point. And I don't think it's a coincidence or a fluke that he also has the crazy clutch runners in scoring position stats as a hitter.
Yeah.
And they're both like way on the tips of the tail, like complete outliers as both a pitcher and a hitter. That's not chance. There's no way that's chance.
Yeah, I agree with you. And a lot of people think like clutch is, and for sometimes it is. Like, there's no doubt.
Generally.
Yeah, right. There's statistical outlier, it's variations and stuff.
Right.
I don't see that with Shohei, and I think he's one of the exceptions to me. As like Mad Bum in the postseason, I think was one of those guys where you see him and like, we are not going to be able to score off him. Forget it. It's over. And it wasn't just a thing; it was a thing. Like, that was what he was about during that stretch. So let's sketch out a list for you. We're going to go with number 10. Who do you got?
Oh gosh, I mean, putting in order is brutal. Yeah, 10 is the toughest one.
Right. But you have some pressure here. Like, pick somebody and we're going to work off that.
Oh gosh, let me look at my list. I know deGrom's higher, Carlos Rodon is higher, Ohtani's higher than 10, Scherzer. I got to have Verlander higher, Sandy. I mean, that's already 5 or 6 guys. McClanahan. This is brutal. I mean, a 10th is probably like a Zach Wheeler.
Okay.
Someone like that.
So
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I had Wheeler at 9. We're going to go.
Okay.
I'm making your list now. We're going Zach Wheeler at 10.
Use a pencil. Use a pencil, because
I'm typing it on my little machine.
In blood.
No, but I'll change it. This isn't the old school. I can delete.
See, it's just brutal for me because I look at Nola and Wheeler, and it's just like Sophie's choice, Do
you want to use? So I had that same problem, and it was a coin flip to me. The only difference was I went Wheeler because just another year track record. He was in the Cy Young hunt the year before, and innings wise, I thought it took him a while. April wasn't a great month for him last year, and then he started running off a streak of being Zach Wheeler, and in the postseason was so. Love the dude. I love Nola too. I mean, Nola is an electric pitcher. Doesn't walk anybody.
No, I mean, if you got to pick one of the best next year, I mean, I can't, God, I just can't leave Nola out of the top 10. But then I look at Wheeler and I'm like, which guy's better?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
it's
all right,
really
why don't I
tough.
do a slash for you here? We're gonna go Nola / Wheeler.
Fair enough.
Okay. That'll
Okay, I want to make sure I don't leave anybody off that's ahead of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just looking at my list. They're not in order. 5, 6.
We're putting them in order now, Fisher. You got a gun to your head. This is the law.
Right.
Sorry.
Oh my God. I think oh boy. This is brutal, man. We had this problem before. We had trouble picking 10, much less putting them in order.
Mine was a nightmare, and I ended up being satisfied with it because I thought that it was more of like, I also went for who gives me kind of the best highlights sometimes, like if I was debating about one or the other. Although Manoah, I mean, he's a fun guy to do gifts. Again, I mean, or I can let you move around some of mine or sub out some of mine. How about that? You can.
All right. You know, I just picked 11 guys. 2 of them are Wheeler and Nola. So we'll leave them at 10. And let me look at who I would say is the worst guy of this list of phenomenal pitchers. And it's just insane. They're all awesome. Now here's who I have a problem with, and that's Corbin Burnes, who I think is just incredible. You know, he had that dozen start run. We're like, what's going on? I mean, it's like a 3-5 or whatever it was.
Yep.
It's like, it's just weird. I know he ended with a couple, 1 or 2 good starts. And it's Corbin Burnes. You watch and you're like, well, it doesn't look like anything's necessarily wrong. And are you really going to bet against him?
If he was if there was just he wore down a tiny bit, or maybe there's an undisclosed injury or minor thing, but he didn't look like himself during that little run. But he's so good.
He's so good.
Like he's one of almost like an artist throwing gas. Like his stuff, that backdoor cutter, he moves up spots for me just because of that pitch.
Yeah. Just you know, I'm looking at this list thinking of who I have below him.
So you're going to go Burnes number 9? Is that what we're doing?
I might, because I mean, I'm not putting Verlander below him.
Okay.
I'm not putting Sandy below him. I mean, if there's anybody, it might be like a McClanahan, who I think he's going to tear it up if he's healthy too. So
yeah,
it's hard to bet against him. I might put McClanahan in that next spot above Burnes.
Okay.
It's just, this is ridiculous. It's going to look wrong no matter what.
It really was tough. And I, again, doing it on, I was on MLB Network, and I don't think there was a wrong choice, but I felt pretty comfortable with my list. And I was able to defend it for the most part, although like my differentiation in the top 2, like I have Alcantara there because of his innings, and then I have deGrom second. And if you're going to make the innings argument, you kind of ding him on that. So, yeah, I mean, I was talking out both sides of my mouth a little bit.
Right. It's hard to know how much to ding deGrom. So if you assume healthy, like you said, and we both agree, if you assume healthy all year long, deGrom's at the top.
Yeah.
And if he's not, it's just, and same with, you know, Strider. A lot of people are questioning his health too, but
yeah, Oblique, I don't think he'll be okay. He keeps himself in great shape, and that dude is he's one of those young guys who loves the game and loves getting better. And I would not, I don't know how his fastball gets better, but other things could get better.
Right.
All right. So we got Nola Wheeler 10, Burnes 9, McClanahan 8.
Right.
We're on 7 for you.
My goodness. It is like that. I can't say any of these names. You want to say Strider, but you just can't. But then who you bump? Max Scherzer? I'm going to put Max Scherzer there.
Okay.
And stun everybody.
Max Scherzer, number 7. He did not make my list because my self-imposed rule.
Right.
Even though I think you've done the stats, Max Scherzer is my number 1 tweeted pitcher. And he's obviously one of my favorites.
Right. And these guys, you just can't bet against them. You might look at the numbers and go, but the numbers are really good last year. 2.29 ERA, is that right? Jeez.
But a little wearing down at points. Like he gets a little bit of injuries every once in a while.
All right. I think he's another guy where the bar's high, gives up some runs. You're like, oh, he gave up some runs. It's like, come on, look at the body of work.
I just don't see him dropping off. I think he's one of those guys that, again, he keeps himself in really good shape. it would not surprise me to see him continue to be great.
I'm hesitant, but let me throw Strider in the next spot.
Strider at 6. So
none of this is going to feel good though.
So, but you have him higher than I did. Like I felt like I had to put Strider there at 10, but could Strider be honestly, again, another guy, if he won the Cy Young Award, nobody's going to sit there and go, oh my God, Strider came out of nowhere.
No, I mean, it's almost 14 strikeouts per 9. I mean, that's not even real. I mean, it's deGrom.
Right. And coincidentally, that's his idol, basically, is pitching. Yeah. He basically prides himself or modeled himself after deGrom.
Right. Okay.
Right, we're halfway.
On that note, I'm going to discount deGrom because we just don't know how healthy. I could put him anywhere on this list and plead the injury factor and get away with it. So I'm going to do it right now and put deGrom in the next spot.
Okay. We got deGrom at 5.
Yep.
That's solid.
Ooh.
Doesn't it make you feel dirty though? Like, it
does.
As well as I do.
Yep.
The best pitcher on the planet when he's healthy.
Right. Absolutely. I'm so big on Rodon. I'll put him 4th.
I like that.
I'm so big on him. And he's so amped to pitch for the Yankees. The last thing you needed to do if you're, add fire to that guy, he already had it enough last year. And just like, oh.
So in my theory, that's exactly right. So my theory is that dude is a big game pitcher. That dude loves the energy from the crowd. He is not one of those guys that's going to suck in New York because fans get to him. If anything, he's going to be like, F you, I'm going to shove the ball down your throat 3 times more than that because I'm a Yankee and, everybody wants to beat us. That dude thrives on that stuff. And again, he has been so good. I love that pick. And he's one of your guys, right?
He is. I can tell you just from working with him, he's at least gained a little bit of an appreciation of where his stuff works against which guy, which the last thing you want to do if you're a hitter is see a guy like that get more confidence. But he had it, and he would go into meetings and they'd be like, do we go, we go up here, we go over here. And he's like, you guys are wondering, and I know that this is where I'm going to go and get ready. And you could see it in the games. Oh my gosh. It's another guy that like, okay, I love the 6-pitch pitchers, but if you see a guy doing that, throwing a 225 FIP up with fastballs and sliders, more, 85% or whatever the hell it was, that's something else too. It's like everybody knows it's one or the other, and it doesn't matter. Like Gosman, it's like you're going to get one or the other pitch 90% of the time, but it's not working out for you, is it?
We had this discussion too, because I was wondering that same thing. How much better do you get by having a 3rd and 4th really good pitch? And I think it depends. I talked about McClanahan, who I've always looked at him as a curveball slider guy, and then he has his changeup that is got a 45% whiff rate, and he ends up throwing that a ton. Corbin Burnes, same thing. Like he throws a bunch of pitches, but then you have guys like Strider, who is basically a 2-pitch guy. deGrom does 2 things, does them perfectly. And Rodon too. Is there some benefit to simplifying the game and saying, you know what, F you, I'm going to beat you with my best stuff?
I think so. And, again, like it's topical with everybody I work with. Should you throw that many pitches? Should you throw more pitches? Let's look at it. What does it mean when you add a 3rd one?
Yeah.
Should you? And, or if you're Stroman or someone, like, do you need a 7th pitch? Should you cut one of the 6 away?
How much of that is mentality too? Because, all right. So to me, and this is kind of my differentiation between Shohei and Darvish that I've made before, is I think Shohei is, well, I think Darvish is more like I don't know, like a Da Vinci or Rembrandt, where he picks the exact right color he wants. He has all shades of pitches and has more colors on his palette than any other pitcher. Shohei is a force of nature. He has multiple pitches, but I see him more like a Jackson Pollock, where he just chucks everything at you, and they're still art. But one is a forceful, you're seeing all this movement and everything, and velo off the charts and dominating hitters. And the other is more like a precision artist that chooses the exact right color. And you could do either way. Like either one is successful. It's just different ways of doing it. And it depends on the pitcher's mentality. Like Stroman, I think, is one of those guys that likes to have different pitches. Like he needs that in his arsenal. He's another great guy to watch. It wouldn't surprise me that Cubs staff is kind of rounding out.
It's going to sneak up on some guys.
Yeah. Like I started featuring a bunch of their guys, and they have some nasty. There's some nasty stuff.
They do.
Yeah,
they do.
All right, we're on the top 3 now, and you still have Verlander,
and Sandy and Shohei.
Yeah.
I'm going to put Shohei third, and I'm going to say it only because 6-man row, fewer starts. That's the only reason.
Yep. Yeah, I got you.
And it's just it's a wimp move on my part just to get away with having to put them in the right order, because that's a tough one.
No problem.
I think I'm going to go Verlander 2 and Sandy 1. But
so
it wouldn't shock me to see those flipped either. So, but Sandy was just a horse, and I'm not entirely convinced there weren't times when it's not like he let up or anything, but we didn't necessarily see his best last year.
I don't disagree with you. I thought there were some times where there were times where he almost clearly went for strikeouts, and sometimes where he was going for contact to go deeper in games. And it's almost like you can see him working that out in his head. He's such a guy that again, opposing broadcast teams loved him. Fans loved him. I've never heard anybody say, man, Sandy sucks. I hate that guy. He appeals to everybody in baseball because of the way he carries himself, his desire to take on a huge workload. I'm with you. So your list was, you have Sandy 1, Verlander 2, Ohtani 3, Rodon 4, deGrom 5, Strider 6th, Scherzer 7th, McClanahan 8th, Burnes 9th, and a tie between Nola and Wheeler at 10. So we have the same pitchers, just jacked around a little bit. And who would you say you have? Bieber was a tough one to leave off.
Bieber's tough. Like I said, I'm a huge Kevin Gausman guy. I believe in him so much, and it's hard
to
like when I look at Wheeler, Nola, and I look at Gausman, Bieber, I'm like, yeah, you're talking about a great quartet there. I'm not sure about that. That's tough.
And my thought is, I don't see it bothers me not having an Astros pitcher on there, only because I think the Astros may have, again, one of, if not don't be surprised if they have at least one of the top rotations in baseball. It's a cop out because they could have the best rotation, but it's so hard with other guys having, when you have rotations with, the Nola, Wheeler, Verlander, Scherzer, Strider, Free, there's all tough, but the Astros with Valdez, Javier, McCullers for a full season. And I mean, Hunter Brown is going to be a stud.
He's going to be something.
Yeah. So they don't drop off.
They don't drop off. And it is weird not to have them there. Like we already said, but Javier doesn't get anywhere near the press he should either. So
is it because he's just not showy? Because he's like a quiet, he gets swings and misses. His fastball, I mean, maybe if his fastball was 99, people would be talking about it more instead of the sneaky, you're not able to hit it type of thing.
It could be. And it's the Astro factor too. It's not like they're super loved everywhere else. So
in fairness, I love that team last year. Like I knew I did an analysis. I think it was my column for Fox when I broke down their staff, and I was like, I knew it, but I didn't know it as much as going pitcher by pitcher. And I was like, holy crap, this team is so deep pitching wise.
You don't get a break.
Right.
You don't get a break.
Yeah. And like, again, Zach Gallen to me is a pitcher's pitcher. He's got such good stuff. And I feel like he also flies under the radar. Maybe it's a velo thing, he only tops out at 96-ish, 95, 96.
Right. I'm even looking at my list here and realizing I might have considered Dylan Cease in my 10. If I look at him
that's right. I noticed you did not have Dylan Cease, who's
I think God, it's weird to say that I'm going to bump Wheeler Nola.
Yeah.
But I would take Dylan over them.
Okay, well, let's switch up. And now you have no Phillies on your list. How do you feel about that?
No Phillies, no Astros.
Yeah, like that doesn't seem right, but I understand it.
No, right.
All right, so
And
I'm gonna take out my eraser and we're gonna put
right.
put Dylan Cease number
Don't
10.
erase it. Yeah, who was 9? Who do I have?
Burnes.
Yeah. God, that's brutal. That's brutal. I mean, just Dylan Cease was so good last year, and when I first did some work with them, I mean, it's been topical since then. It's like, we don't know where your ceiling is, and you need to trust your stuff. Quit trying to throw by guys and stuff. Your stuff's hard to catch, man.
Yeah,
you know,
I've heard everybody say that. Yep.
Stop walking 5 guys a game, and
that's the hard part. And again, that's what I don't know. Right. If he does stop walking a bunch and goes deeper into games, he might be the best pitcher on this list because his stuff is so electric. I've got to see that happen before I give him credit for that. But again, pitchers with command issues, age sometimes fixes that. Don't forget, like, even going back as far as Sandy Koufax, Randy Johnson, Nolan Ryan, those guys did not have stellar command when they were coming up. It ended up dialing in later on in their career. So I have him 5 with some wiggle room.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're going to bump Nolan Wheeler. I kind of like your Nolan Wheeler there, but
I do, but
Cease off?
Yeah, I mean, what am I going to bump Corbin Burnes?
Yeah, no, you can't bump Corbin Burnes.
I mean, I just can. I know he had the rocky dozen starts, but it's Corbin Burnes.
I'm going to make you give a final answer. Are you going to bump them or are you going to keep them? You have 2. Like now the question is, do you want to pander to the Phillies crowd?
I'm not going to pander.
I mean, you're going to leave all the Phillies off.
I love Aaron Nola and I love Zach Wheeler, Phillies fans. There's your pandering.
With you.
No, it's not pandering. It's all
right, one game. Would you pick Cease or Nola?
Who we playing?
Right. All right. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm wimping out by asking an answer.
Yeah. You gonna lock this in?
Yeah, Cease has to be in there somewhere. And those were my bottom guys.
So final list, we are going to wipe it out. We are adding Dylan Cease at number 10. And I am going to tell Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola that you don't like them.
Hold on, I'm already sending him a text.
Yeah, you hate the.
I have to get in ahead of you. Don't believe what Rob says.
Right. He just dissed you guys.
This is for motivation for this year. This is why I'm doing it.
Yeah, no, I can live with that. And I think so. Cease, to me, again, at number 10, I see him, as the wild card because, again,
right.
If you told me Dylan Cease is the 10th best pitcher in baseball, I would say I think he's higher than that. I think he's high, but could he be lower than that? Yeah, with command, it's all bets are off. The other guys.
Who'd you have him ahead of in your list again?
I had him ahead of Verlander, McClanahan, Rodon, Wheeler, and Strider. And I could argue that he shouldn't be. Like, I could go either way on that.
I won't put him ahead of Rodon. I could argue ahead of McClanahan.
Yeah.
I could see that. And, probably not. deGrom is so that whole injury thing. Probably not. Yeah. But I could see it. I mean, he's, Dylan's certainly healthy. He's playing a lot of disc golf in the off season, staying ready.
Yeah. He's a character. Like, he's a quiet, character, that dude.
Assassin.
Yeah. And got a great mustache. Maybe, I don't know, better mustache game, him or Strider?
Ooh, that's brutal. Yeah. That's tough. That's a tougher question than this one.
I think it's a tie. Like, I don't think you can. I don't.
1 and 1A.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I can buy that list. And now you've just dissed Wheeler and Nola, but that's cool. Like, we've already said, you had them in there. You had them in there, and I would have had. Well, again, I can't. Right. For any one game, if I had Aaron Nola going for me, I would feel really good.
You made your rules for your list, so I'm going to say if you're in the World Series last year, you're ineligible for this list.
That's perfect. That's fine with me. All right. Final answer. You go. Cease, Burnes, McClanahan, Scherzer, Strider, deGrom, Rodon. It almost rhymes. Ohtani, Verlander, and Sandy number 1. We both have Alcantara number 1.
I think so.
Yeah. And I mean, this is just a Sandy love fest, but he deserves every bit of it, as deserving a Cy Young Award winner as you could have last year. And I look forward to seeing him get back on the bump, because yeah, that guy symbolizes everything that we all love about pitching. A guy that goes to post all the time, goes deep into games, and has really great stuff. Like, big fan.
We have all these quality stats, whether they're a pitch level velocity or, ERA or FIP, or all, even Ks per nine now instead of strikeouts. Like, the guy threw almost 230 innings, which again, if it was 15 years ago, you'd be like, oh, was he hurt? Or, but nowadays, like, he lapped the field in innings, I mean, you can't overlook that. It's just like his quality, which was almost top notch of what we saw across the league. And then 230 innings of that. I mean, just
I view that
got to be there.
Yeah. I view that as the same thing. Like number one, 4 pitches that he splits almost equally. Despite the fact that, his changeup is so good, but what does he have? 4 pitches he throws over 20. Like, again, this is the opposite of what we were saying, is simplifying it. He just says, you're not going to know what's coming. So he doesn't maybe fall off as much late in the game, because he could always switch the mix around if he wants to. Like, he's got so many weapons.
Right. And the ultimate compliment comes from you, who rightfully, you have a strikeout bias. I mean, he only struck out 8 guys per 9. It's not way down the list, but that's part of why he can go deeper, is he's not investing as many pitches to strike guys out, and it's not fooling around walking guys, and he goes deep.
He's one of those guys that I make that exception for, exactly for that reason. Like, I think he intentionally, his stuff is tough to put in play well. He has so many weapons that he can go to, and sometimes he just doesn't go to strike out guys, because he knows his bullpen needs a rest, whatever. And this was not on the assignment, but I have some thoughts. Who do you think will be the breakout pitcher? Like, if you're looking for a starting pitcher to break out next year, that maybe didn't have a great year last year, that will all of a sudden break out. I will give you 2 off the top of my head.
Is the guy's first name Nick?
Are you thinking about Nick Lodolo? Was that
well? I don't know does that count as a breakout?
He does, kind of, yeah. And I was on him last year because, like, especially breaking ball wise, man, oh man, I think you ran a stat like he had more breaking balls ending up behind a hitter than anybody else in baseball, and like, you can see it. It was just, that's what he did to folks. So sticking with that, I have Hunter Green as a breakout guy. Like, I thought, second half, everybody got so focused on why he was getting shelled in the first half. Oh, his fastball's no good, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden was just blowing people away. Slider is great. That guy takes the game seriously. Great head on his shoulder, young pitcher. I see, and it's not fancy. Like, I'm not probably blowing anybody's mind by saying this, but I love that guy, and I think his ceiling is huge. Maybe not the most electric fastball, but he throws hard enough that he's going to give you a hard time, and his slider really, really good. Maybe coming up with a changeup or a splitter. That's what I thought would take his game kind of the next level. I see him with some kind of nasty changeup split type thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of guys in history who've had crappy looking stats, but the team threw them out there and just let them take their lumps and get used to it. And the next year they came back and popped 1.5, 2 points off their ERA. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. He's so young.
Right. So that's what I see, is he's one of those guys that is a future workhorse, big dude who just shoves. The other guy is a Jesus lizard. I think Jesus Luzardo.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah. Like, I think he flew under the radar a little bit.
Yeah.
And he had some fantastic games. Another brilliant pitcher, very smart with sneaky. Yeah, he throws hard as crap, but also his off speed stuff, really, really good. I see him putting stuff together and being really, really good. And you have other guys like, I can see Roansy Contreras doing well, some other guys like that, but those are my guys. Like, I think Green, and to me, it's Green and Jesus Luzardo if I had to pick 2 guys to break out next year. And Lodolo, don't get me wrong, Lodolo I already consider him kind of broken out just because of
Right.
kind of elite swing and miss stuff from time to time, but maybe not. Maybe he's not a household name among people. Hold on.
Right. I mean, Manoah's all over your stuff, but nationally, I mean, and he already broke out in our mind, but
Yeah.
he's still young too. What did he? Is he 25 yet?
No, I don't. You know what? We should probably look
If he
that up
is,
before I say he's not.
it
But
hasn't been for very long if he is. And
hold up. I'm
right.
not gonna come off this lion or anything. I'm gonna
He's
get
29.
this. Yeah. Alec is. Let's see how old he's 25.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
25.
Yeah, yeah. Like 25. What was his ERA last year?
224.
Yeah, that's a big 224.
335 FIP. So
right.
yeah,
So that was the thing that got me. That was the only reason why I didn't have there was he didn't have the swing and miss, and I thought the FIP was a little high for what I was gonna get. But can he increase his strikeouts? Or I guess why should you if your ERA is 2.2? You really don't need to, probably, if you can be successful doing that, like Max Fried had been.
Right.
I just don't. I want to see it one more year from him, and take it as a challenge, Alec. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
He's fantastic.
No, let's do this in a year, and we might have him in our top 10.
Yeah. Could he win the Cy Young? Like, any of these guys could win the Cy Young award next year. So
right. The guy who I probably post about more than 90% of the pitchers, but it's only because it's a shot of Shohei hitting him in the nuts, was Patrick Sandoval.
Yep.
But no one talks about how good that guy is. It's crazy.
Don't. And
they don't.
Right. And like, changeup is one of the absolute elite changeups in baseball. I think there's a little bit of a West Coast,
right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm asleep. I don't tweet him as much. Maybe. I know you've given me crap about that.
I have.
But yeah, he's really, really good. And that's another team that's not going to surprise me if they're good. Like, we all want to see Shohei in the postseason. We all want to see Mike Trout in the postseason. Like, he has to. So come on, do it. And the Rangers, are they going to be improved enough that that they give it a run? Maybe.
Yeah.
If they fix the camera angle, I'll root for them.
Oh God.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about, you're saying Tristan McKenzie, right?
Tristan McKenzie.
Awesome.
Yeah. Right.
Another guy under the radar, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I don't consider him, so in my mind, he's broken out, but I know in the national mind, he probably hasn't. Like, colorful character, brilliant dude, great stuff. I love his curveball. It's one of my favorite pitches in the game. Yeah, I can absolutely see that. I mean, I could see him with a low 2 ERA and a bunch of Ks. Like, he had some of the best pitched games last year, huge strikeouts. And he will always get better. Like, he's one of those very committed baseball player and brilliant pitcher. Big fan.
Yeah, and the the Mariners, they're big out in this coast, but not so much on the East Coast. But like George Kirby or Logan Gilbert, I mean, those guys are so young.
I consider those guys elite and almost made my list. But you're right. I don't think that they get the national attention. I think Kirby to me, if he ended up Greg Maddux, it wouldn't surprise me. He's his command is insane.
It is.
I don't know if you ever looked at his college stats. He led the nation in in strikeout to walk ratio, I believe, and is no drop off going to like pro ball. Same thing, just command off the charts. That little two-seamer running back to the plate. I can see him taking it up a notch and being. I mean, I'm throwing around Maddux. No one's Greg Maddux. That's a fanciful comparison, but I did call him the Rye Maddux after he's born in Rye, New York. He's quiet and has sneaky, incredible command and really good stuff. And throws decently hard too. Love him. And Logan Gilbert, yeah, energy for days, electric. I consider him already broken out, like a guy that most people were watching on the West Coast. Were they watching on the East Coast? Maybe not.
Right.
But a guy that is a competitor and fun to watch. And they're very different to me. It's like fire and ice with those guys. Gilbert thrives on emotion, and Kirby to me is always poker faced out there. So that's my view on them. I'm actually, I have an interview coming up with both of them. I think I'm doing both at the same time.
Wow.
Which should be fun because I
absolutely.
Yeah, some of my favorite dudes. Where do you think, a New York pitcher, Senga, like, what do you see?
Oh, I know. I was looking for more so I could model some of his stuff. It's the data that I saw was sketchy, didn't look as reliable, so I wasn't able to do that. But if the median of what I saw available is true, he's going to be really good.
Yeah. And so to me, the split is going to play the ghost fork. What do you like, over a 50% whiff rate in Japan on it, and Japan has a lot of contact hitters.
Yeah, and what if I remember right, and this is from memory, he didn't throw it as much as I think you might see it here, where he goes, wait, this works. My other stuff is good, but this is like people, the launch angle and how guys are swinging right now. The splitter, if you can throw it, you see these guys succeed. I think he'll throw it a lot here.
Yeah, and the thing that I've talked about before, but to me in Japan, the splitter or fork is an art as opposed to the way it is here, where somebody has there's multiple types of splitters, and a lot of people throw it, and it's almost like a national pitch. And of the national pitch, his is the most well-known of them, and that's counting like Shohei. So I mean, the ghost fork, a gyro fork is an entity in and of itself, and that's his thing. So to say that the guy had maybe the best splitter in Japan is saying a lot.
And
and it wouldn't surprise me, right? And it wouldn't surprise me. It's just tough. Like, I can't model it either, but I was just curious what your take was. I'm looking forward to seeing him throw.
Right, and coming into that staff where he doesn't necessarily have to like carry the team, just take your turn, and God only knows what he's going to learn from the guys around him. I mean,
you made that exact point was the point I was going to make, because he's going to have, to me, maybe less of a learning curve. Number one, he's been on pro ball for a long time, and a lot of these guys that make that switch, it takes a while for hitters to catch up to you, because you have an advantage coming in, they haven't seen you. And then adding to the fact of having two first ballot Hall of Famers next to you that you can pick their brains on, two of the all-time great pitchers, at least in recent era, right alongside you. I'd love that. Like, I think that's going to be a lot of fun to see how he develops.
Yeah, they're going to be lights out. That's going to be a fun team to watch. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I know the expectations are high, and you see a team, run into a sketchy patch. Like, remember the Yankees all of a sudden were winning 30% of their games, for 2 weeks or whatever, and people are freaking out and booing Aaron Judge and stuff. So we'll see.
Saying Garrett Cole sucks and whatever, and Garrett Cole does not suck. He's fantastic, and him and Carlos Rodon, I think they'll push each other, because that's those guys. I liken them both to bullies on the mound. Like, they just, when you see them on, they're shoving the ball down people's throats, and they're like, almost the way they dismiss hitters. It's like, F you, get out of here. You're not good enough to face me, type of thing. And I know that for a fact that's Rodon's attitude.
Oh, absolutely. Gosh. Best case stretch. Like, you all have your favorite, and you want a little bit of dancing and hip thrusting or whatever is your preference. But I love that lefty one where they're in the left side dugout, and he just keeps walking, just all in one swoop, just strikes him out and just never breaks stride. Love that. Maybe my favorite case stretch.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I mean, he had some of the best last year. I mean, it wasn't the Lance Lynn thing, but
right.
Grabbing your junk gets a little, like, come on. That's awesome.
But that's top. I mean, I know it's top 3. I'm not sure where I'd put that one, but Cole, Rodon, I'd say Rodon, Cole. Best duo in the bigs, starting pitcher duo. Oof.
Yeah, so this is even tough. Like, if you look at the best pitcher duos in the league, I think we'd have just as a hard time doing that with, I mean, we already had the Nola, Wheeler, Woodruff, Burnes. Like, should Woodruff be on these lists? I mean, he's
He's right there.
He's right there without a doubt.
Yes.
I mean, you have Bieber McKenzie that we've talked about. Those guys are freaking tough. You know, Fromber and Javier, they you feel comfortable. Scherzer, Verlander.
Verlander might be the top. I know they were on the top of the list you mentioned the other day.
Yeah, right. They could very well be one, two. They're certainly one. Well, they may be 1, 2. I mean, Kershaw's probably one, right? Of all the current pitchers, if you Hall of Fame,
probably the history, like we forget how good he was for how long. And
lifetime ERA of what? Like, he's the most underrated pitcher maybe of all time. We take it for granted. We talk about guys they take for granted. He is number one that we take for granted. That guy is a walking legend and should be a unanimous Hall of Famer. Again, the only ding he gets is postseason stuff, and you know, whatever. I'm with whatever. Right. I love that guy. I mean, he's everything that's good in baseball as far as like he wears the crown. Like you can't. He's like Sandy Koufax and stuff. Like you can't diss him. No,
we said he was underrated when we did our talk about the best starters the last 60 years, and we still underrated him, even saying we were.
And he doesn't make our list. Like he could, if you had Kershaw on the list, no one would say you're stupid at all. Yeah.
No, but we didn't even pump him up as much as we should have.
No, he's not even on my left off list.
No,
and that's ridiculous. I'm sorry, Clayton.
Yeah, guy throws up a 228 last year, and like, oh, he's just not really on his game, and like,
and he does it every year, right? He does it every year. It's not like it was a fluke year for him. The dude's what's his lifetime ERA? It's like
looks like a typo,
right? It's insane,
right?
Well, this has been fun as always, and I appreciate you joining me. And we'll probably do a couple more of these before the season starts. Maybe we'll talk about relievers.
Relievers would be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a tough list too, because it's so fluid and there's so many good guys out there. It'd be fun to talk about them. So maybe we'll do that.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome, dude. Well,
good talking to you.
Good talking to you again. Take care.